How do you change an airplane tire? Hello Aero folks, you're good? Today, I'm here at Azul's maintenance hangar in Campinas to show you how to change a plane's tire. But first, just as usual, you already know, but we always remember. Aero shop and products. If you don't already know, we have the Aero medal. Aero logo on the front, Super Petrol on the back, and also the Aero pin. Little brooch, which is the logo of Aero and Super Petrol. Go to the little shop, go get yours, and don't forget t-shirts and other products. And the little Aero shop today is part of Su Azul, which is a marketplace that brings together some aviation and tourism content creators. So, take a look there, I'm sure you'll like the products. Remembering that at Su Azul, we have VASP relics. Several things that belong to the airline VASP are available there. An airplane tire is changed much more often than you might think. This period, for example, will be changed every 25, 30, 40 days, depending on the operating flow of an airplane. A smaller plane like this one is an Airbus A320. It will change tires countless times because it has many more cycles during a month. What is a cycle? It's a takeoff and a landing. So, this plane, for example, which operates there on the Sao Paulo-Rio de Janeiro route, will make 8 landings in one day, so it should change even more frequently, but the average is 25-45 days. Now, how is it, This plane is already on the jack because he's doing other maintenance, in addition to changing the tires. But when you change an airplane tire, you don't just change the tire, you change the whole set, tire and wheel. This here will come out and another will come in its place. If this needs to be done overnight, that is, the period that the plane is inside a hangar, doing periodic maintenance or suddenly, between flight stages, the plane arrived from a flight, then something happened, I don't know, it entered a nail here, stuck, tore off someone for some reason. This here has to be replaced. You can do it on the patio over there, between these flights. But again, it will take out an entire tire and put another one in its place. To get this tire out of here, is very simple. We have a kind of cap that is covering the main screw of the axle, which I will show you there on that other tire that is disassembled. So, remove this cap, remove the main screw, the entire wheel with the tire comes off, then another one comes and puts it in its place. Now, how do you lift that plane on the jack? It is clear that a jack of this size will not be used in the courtyard. There's the smaller jack made for use, just to change tires. Here it is suspended, but when it is on the ground, the jack enters right in the middle and supports this part here. This is already done precisely to support all the weight of the landing gear. The little monkey will lift, it will lift the wheel off the ground, enough space for it to be able to get off the plane, exactly like you do there when you go to change the tire on your car. Only the plane doesn't take the spare tire. The step will be there where he arrives. For the tire to come off, then the mechanics will have to remove this nut here that goes here in front, this one here, and where that axle that I showed goes, and it is locked by this nut here. It is this axis that will enter here. The landing gear's axle is disassembled and this nut that I showed fits here. So, the wheel stays here. And then, of course, there are safety lock systems for the business not to let go, not to spin falsely. Now the most interesting thing is that the plane was changed, the plane flew again, but when this is changed, this tire goes to maintenance, and there is much more than simply changing a tire on the landing gear. From the hangar, the tires are removed from the planes, and then they come here. Here, they wait to enter the maintenance part. You can even see the situation of these tires, right? This one is already well worn, even more square. Before entering the maintenance part, the tires have to be completely deflated, so they come by here to do that. Airplane tires are filled with nitrogen and not atmospheric air, as we see at the station where we are going to inflate the car's tire. Just like what happens in a tire shop when you change a car tire or remove a wheel for some reason, here it's the same thing. This equipment here has the function of decoupling the rubber, the tire itself, here from the aluminum wheel. Now, then there's this part of actually taking the wheel off. As the wheel is 2 parts, so there are 2 half cubes, so this wheel called a hub, it has to be unscrewed to be able to get out of the tire. Different from the car tire that you will remove from one side of the wheel, this is not the wheel, it will come out like this, so this wheel will be fitted in this template. Each jig, according to each wheel of each plane, it will hook on all screws. The template has already been fitted to the screws, and now they are going to unscrew with a special screwdriver to do this, because this screw is not tightened in any way, it has a specific torque. Here, they were explaining that, in the case of a big heavier wheel, the tire was removed with the hoist there, right? The automatic system. Here, as is a smaller wheel. This wheel, what plane is it from? From ATR. So, in a smaller plane, they can, with their own hands, remove this tire from here. They took out the first part of the cube. But of course, the contact between these two parts has other materials here, because it is worth remembering that the tire does not have a tube, like the tires of current cars, right? So, as there is no chamber, this splice, it has to have a seal, because otherwise the air would escape. This little rubber here is responsible, ring that is called a ring, which is called precisely to make this seal here of the two parts of the wheel. Every airplane wheel has two parts, two semi-cubes. It doesn't have an airplane wheel, at least in the vast majority of commercial planes, more common planes, which is a wheel like a car, which is one piece. Always those two parts. However, if you look at an ATR wheel, it is even very similar in terms of size to a car wheel, but there are wheels that are much bigger than this one. As this wheel came from a use, then it is dirty because of that use, but also because of the oil, the grease, everything that is put in like any wheel of any vehicle. That's why even the staff works glove here to be able to handle it. So here, the screws, the bearing that came from that wheel I showed you now, the rubber, everything here to be inspected has to be washed, as well as the wheel itself, the two hubs, the two semi-cubes. Here then is the wash. Lucas will show us how this is done. So there, it dropped into that tank, there's a liquid that you said was Remosol. It's a product to remove grease, oil, and everything else, right? So cleaning is like doing the dishes at home. So, he immersed himself there in that product, the product acted. So, you can see the difference here from the wheel that hasn't been cleaned yet to this one that's about to be inspected. Here, so the wheels are all clean and you can see the difference in size. The case of this wheel is a wheel from an Airbus A320, from the main landing gear, this one and also from the A320, but from the nose landing gear. But one thing, divided into two parts into two cubes. Now, they start the inspection part. First thing, see if there are no cracks in this wheel. Just out of curiosity, the material of the wheels is aluminum, an aluminum alloy, because it is a more resistant material, this aluminum alloy, and it is also a light material, so they will use this equipment here to check if there is any kind of crack, some crack in that wheel. This is very important because any beginning of a crack, anything, can already mean material fatigue, something needs to be changed or repaired. So, you see the level of detail they see here in these wheels to ensure that a wheel doesn't break in an operation, for example. That, if you leave a crack in a piece here that is not, it is not observable. If this here does not pass through these checks and is not repaired when needed, there may be a bigger problem. So here, they put a wheel, a semi-cube to calibrate the equipment to see if it's picking up the cracks, right? So, in the case of this semi-cube, it has cracks just so they can see how it is. So we lower the cage here. Lower the system to rotate. And there he is. So let's see the drawing difference here. You see here that he has already identified, in this red, that there is something. In the chart above, he has already identified it. In addition to cracks, they also analyze the issue of corrosion, because corrosion can result in a crack. Then they will see if this corrosion can be repaired, or if I suddenly have to condemn the wheel and change it. Anyway, all this is evaluated here, that's what maintenance is for. It is important to remember that, here in this maintenance shop, they have two maintenance areas. The part where the wheel will undergo minor repairs and then return to operation. This is done every certain hour of flight. Each manufacturer's manual tells how many hours of flight a wheel has to undergo maintenance. But just like an airplane engine, wheels and tires also experience overhaul. What is an overhaul? It's time to redo it all. This wheel can go to this side here now. You see that the wheels are painted, everything was checked, no repairs were needed. You enter this stage, which is the assembly part. In the case of wheels that are undergoing overhaul, they remove this paint and there it remains. You can see this half cube on the aluminum even without anything. The wheel looks like new. You need to go through some repair, they will fix it. This tiny wheel is from the nose landing gear of the ATR. Looks like even a smaller plane, right? But no, the nose landing gear. And then here is the ATR main landing gear wheel. But, detail, the wheel that left a certain plane, it will not necessarily return to that same plane. The wheel of an airplane model, then, of an A330, from the moment it came for maintenance, it will go back to another A330 in the fleet. Wheels that have had the paint removed in the overhaul need to be painted. That's why they come here. This here is nothing more than a painting booth where they do this service. After all this is done, this wheel will go back to the assembly part and it will mix with the other wheels that didn't have to go through the overhaul. Here then, all these wheels are already in the assembly part. At that moment, the tires will also come in, which are here. Here we have tires for everything that is an airplane. This one is an Airbus A330 panel. Look at the size of the panel. A common practice in aviation is tire retreading. A question of cost too, of course. The way an airplane tire is retreaded is homologated, certified. It's not just done anyway. In fact, all the equipment that we saw here is all homologated, certified, to be able to be here working on an airplane part. But just talking about the type of tire. This one here is a new tire, Azul only works with new tires, but they also have retreaded tires on the market, on other airlines, which is perfectly normal. The difference will be a bit of the durability of the tire. How long will it take for this tire to be changed? It has a lot of resistance, but, of course, imagine that from here touching the runway with each landing, each cycle will burn a lot of rubber. We see this rubber being burned when this tire touches the road, which is the smoke that comes out. So that's why he's going to have a lot of wear. Another interesting thing about the plane tire is the grooves. If we see this here on a car tire, it is completely designed because it is a tire prepared for all types of terrain, all types of tracks. Of course, there is a tire for every type of terrain, but on most cars, they are made for a change, to be as versatile as possible. In the case of planes, especially these commercial planes, this tire here is for operating on a paved concrete, asphalt runway. And another, the plane tire, it will always run in a straight line, it will not run in a curve. An airplane tire will only turn when the plane is taxiing at low speed. So, it needs to have these straight grooves here to be able to disperse water. It cannot be completely smooth so as not to cause aquaplaning when landing. And in addition to the water part, the grooves also serve to show the wear of the tire. There is equipment that they are going to put in here and see how deep this groove is here. So, if this is too shallow, it means that the tire is already worn out and needs to be changed. Of course, the plane's maintenance manual shows how many cycles the change will have to be made, but visually, the runway mechanics there will also see when this needs to be done. After a tire has reached the end of its useful life, it can be recycled. And then this rubber can even be used to make tires for other vehicles, like a tractor, for example. Anyway, vehicles that don't need as much resistance, like an airplane tire. After all this process, finally the tire and wheel assembly are assembled. So here we have it complete. You can see, here on the screws, that he puts this marking. This marking here is nothing more to show if the nut will turn here in relation to the screw, which should not happen. These nuts, they are locked with a specific torque, this cannot move. Also in the runway inspection part, the mechanics will look to see if any of these nuts move. Imagine a wheel loosening in flight or a hub falling due to a nut bolt that is loosening. I even have footage there of planes that lost their landing gear after takeoff, so it's not the kind of thing that should happen. So here we have the outside part, right? How would it be, as if it were the alloy wheel or the hubcap of the car in this part here and there in the back, right? All this inside. But here it is not completely ready, it remains to be filled. But even to inflate a tire, there is also a procedure here. The tire and wheel assembly will go into this cage. And here inside it will be filled with nitrogen. Why the cage? Well, remembering that we are in a maintenance area, so a problem could happen. This tire can burst for some reason, so for safety it is closed here, so if it bursts inside. After that happens, the tire is ready, it goes to the expedition to be able to return to the plane. Now, why nitrogen? There are a few reasons. The first is due to the stability of this gas. Nitrogen is a much more stable gas than oxygen, for example, or other gases, and this for a tire that will work at high temperatures and low temperatures at the same time, practically. I mean, it took off, here it is 35 degrees, then it goes to -50 degrees up there, in a time difference of a few minutes. There is also the issue of pressure up there, the air is much thinner, so nitrogen suffers less from this effect of temperature and pressure. It is a more stable gas, it is also an inert gas. That is, if there is a problem, some principle of fire in the brake somewhere close to the wheel, if there is oxygen here inside the tire, oxygen, it is an oxidizer. He will fuel that fire more. In the case of nitrogen, it helps to extinguish even fire. It is an inert gas, so it will prevent a fire from spreading for some reason. Another reason is also the humidity. Atmospheric air has humidity, so if we inject atmospheric air here, this humidity will weigh down, it can freeze. She will contaminate this system somehow during flights. After all that process, it's time to get back on the plane and put the tire back on the landing gear. I hope you enjoyed what we showed here, how it works. You see the size of frame you need simply to change an airplane tire. If you liked it, don't forget to like this video. Comment what you think, and if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, click the subscribe button below, okay? Thanks, and until the next video.